everybody, thanks for stopping in. My daughter's in some kind of a cooking group or class, and she said one day they cooked a beef tri-tip roast in the crock pot, and I've never done that, so she keeps telling me how good it was and I should try it. So she gave me the recipe and I'm going to try to follow it the best that I can. So let's get crocking. This is the tri-tip that I bought. Before Christmas they had these on sale for $2.88 a pound, but they were these big untrimmed ones. And I found this little trimmed up one in the middle of the pile, so they must have mismarked it. The thing only cost $4.64. So I figured, hey, I didn't pay too much for this, so it's good to experiment with. That way if it doesn't turn out too good, I'm not out much. You can see what the bottom of it looks like real quick. Yeah, see, that's trimmed up nice. Hardly any fat on that. The trimmed ones like that were $4.99 a pound, so I think they mismarked it. The recipe called for 1 cup of beef broth, but that didn't seem like enough, so I'm putting 4 cups. Actually, I'm using beef bouillon cubes. They're basically the same thing. So with these, you add 1 cube per 2 cups of water. So 2 of these beef bouillon cubes. I actually find these in the Hispanic section. And it also calls for 1 can of mushroom soup, but that doesn't seem like enough either, so I'm going to use 2 cans. Campbell's cream of mushroom soup here. It also calls for an onion, but I didn't feel like cutting up an onion, so I'm just going to dump in some onion powder like that. That looks pretty good. And you know what? This isn't in the recipe either, but I'm going to add a little Worcestershire sauce, just a little splash of that. It goes well with beef, kind of gets it a richer flavor in my opinion. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, carrots, that was in the recipe. I'm going with a whole bag of baby carrots. Celery wasn't in there, but I cut up 4 stalks of celery. I'm putting that in there. And potatoes weren't on there as well, but I'm gonna put 4 gold potatoes, and I kind of cut these into about 8ths. Then I'm gonna put the tri-tip on top, and it says to season this with some onion soup mix. So I happen to have a package of onion soup mix. Guess we'll just sprinkle that on top of the meat like that. Kind of rub it in a little bit, spread it around. Smells pretty good. Alright, that looks good. Now you could do this same recipe with a chuck roast too if you wanted. Okay, I'm going to cook this on high, so we'll be back in a few hours when it's done. My tri-tip has been cooking for about 4 hours now, and I'm about ready to check it. Now, when I do a chuck roast in there, the way I usually tell when it's done is I just stick a fork in it and twist the fork a little bit, and if the meat breaks apart easily, I know it's done, but I don't know if the tri-tip will get that tender or not, so let's find out. Alright, it's been about 4 hours and 20 minutes, so let's take a peek here. Well, it's not fork tender, I'll tell you that. Maybe I gotta let that go just a little bit longer. What I decided to do here is pull the meat out and slice it up, and then I'm gonna put it back in. And I think it'll work better that way. I was wondering if I should have sliced it up before I started cooking it, because I didn't know if this meat had enough fat in it to, you know, get fork tender and just kind of break apart on its own. And it doesn't really look like that it's going to. So. Now finish this, now we'll get it back in the crock pot. Okay, I sliced this meat up, now I'm just gonna put it back in for a few more minutes. It tastes good and it's tender, but it's not falling apart tender, but just kind of let those pieces simmer in there like that for a few more minutes. Then we'll come back and give it the final taste test. Okay, so here's my final opinion. The meat still didn't really get that tender. So I think if I was gonna do this again, and I thought about doing this, is slicing the meat up first when I first put it in the crock pot. I think it would cook faster and get more tender that way. So if I was gonna do it again, I would slice it up when the meat was raw when I first put it in. But all in all, it tastes really good, has really good flavor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the recipe. The only thing I would probably change is to cut the meat up first. And I wish I would have done part of it that way to experiment, but next time, I guess. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.